So my presentation is going to be a lot more of a sharing what we've experienced and really the significance of the Smart Nation Hackathon that was done 2 years ago. So just to share, it was actually one of the first times that the government has pushed out customer level data. And in my opinion, it was like, wow, Up Singapore actually moved a mountain. There were almost 10 over stat bots that issued out their data, one of which that we worked on was the ACRA data set. And as a former civil servant, I must say that there would have been a lot of considerations going into being able to issue out that data. But as a current banker, I saw a lot of opportunities for how the public sector and the private sector could actually work together. So I was joined by my husband, who is a full-stack developer and a data scientist. And we looked at the data sets, and we saw that actually in the ACRA data set, it related a lot personally to me because as a banker, I look at data for credit risk analysis, and I work in the space of mortgage and secured lending. So on the ACRA data set, we saw like, hey, I could actually match now company-level data across their various corporate structures. I could actually match them now to shareholders and directors. And then I could take a look at balance sheets and then classify them by industry. What does this all mean for an industry such as finance? Well, at that point in time in 2015, there was a prevailing problem in that a lot of manual work was being done to piece together data. And what does this translate to the customer on the ground? It's longer wait time for an SME to take a loan because you've got to piece together corporate structures and then do the analysis on the balance sheet. So we looked at the data and said, hey, okay, if we have the technical capability, I can actually reduce that amount of time it takes to download the ACRA data, which is about half an hour, piece it together, do that assessment, which takes a total of 3 hours, go through all the various bureaucracies to get the assessment and the turnaround time to the customer. And now all this time and effort of 1 day is reduced to 5 seconds. And that's the power of technology that we saw in the ACRA data. But why I term this sharing session as sewing the data patchwork is really because this is really the tip of the iceberg. And as we move on, we realized that there was a lot more that you can piece together to get insights, not just for credit risk analysis, but if you connect that data to the Supreme Court data, you can actually better understand a person's bankruptcy, whether they are bankrupt or not, and that gives you a clearer picture. So I think through the various hackathons that Adam and Derek have scheduled, I've become an advocate for creating that partnership between the private sector as well as the public sector to be able to encourage a lot more sewing of the patchwork of data, in particular because both Johnson and I are in the field of data science. And so what we've started to build was to showcase at the SG50 hackathon a prototype that demonstrates how public data can improve efficiency for business. It reduces costs. It reduces the turnaround time to that customer. They get their loans faster. And in a quick snap, you can clearly see, just using ACRA data, a visual picture of where the sweet spots are. So this is what we came up on in terms of a working prototype. And in our professions, both Johnson and I are working in a bank. We've been able to implement these concepts into practice to reduce that FTE that is always focused within a bank. Outside, we see a lot more opportunities in various industries. Conveyancing is one, healthcare is another. And we will encourage that for most governments who are looking at data, yes, aggregated data is useful, but when it goes to the customer level data, that's where we really get the insights, and those insights become meaningful because they reduce that turnaround time, the cost, and this is a big opportunity for businesses, especially for the private sector. So I think as Johnson and I move on in our work, this is a field that we see ourselves going in for the long term. Yeah. So really, again, thanks to Adam and Derek for creating advocates out of us.